Hello and welcome to Reddit Story Saturday. I'm your host, Nick, and today's video is all about relationship drama between boyfriends and girlfriends, husbands and wives, all of those things you can name them. So if you're excited, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. And we're going to go ahead and get right into our first story. This first story is coming from AITA, and it's Am I wrong for refusing to drive my husband home from his colonoscopy? I need some outside perspective. My husband went to the doc back in September. He needs a colonoscopy. I reminded him in October. In November, he had yet to schedule. I reminded him again and told him to try and schedule it before the end of the year because we hit all insurance and basically free. He told me yesterday he scheduled for the 19th. We're supposed to be in New England for the holidays. He then said we needed to wait, and then after his colonoscopy, we would drive there, which means I would be driving 7+ hours by myself in the late afternoon/evening. I don't do well at night, and I could do it if it was in the morning. I told him to reschedule to after the first of the year. He said no to help save money. So he then rescheduled to next Wednesday, the 17th, and said he needed me to pick him up at 12:30. I told him I can't do that because of my job. I'm a teacher and it's one of my busiest days of the year. He says I'm being rigid, not flexible, and selfish. Also, that I don't care about him. I explained that I just can't leave my class for 30 minutes, especially at lunch hour. Plus, he's going to be under general anesthesia. He needs someone to be with him. Also, what if it takes longer than 30 minutes? He said you would figure it out if it was an emergency. This isn't an emergency. I also told him I can't leave that day because I have parents coming in to help with a big project, a party I am leading, and a parent conference after school. All of this was scheduled before his colonoscopy, which he did not check with my schedule. He says it's because I can't talk on the phone. I mentioned that he could do it when I get home. He says they are closed. I get home most days at 3:30. He told me to figure it out because he would do it for me. I told him I would not have given him a week's notice to figure out for something that's going to require me to take a day off of work. And it's not on me if he waited until the last minute to get it scheduled. I told him to reschedule for the first of the year, and I didn't care if we'd have to pay more because at this point in time, there are not a lot of options with the holiday. He said no and figure it out. I said no. He says I'm being an X because family first and now isn't talking to me. Am I wrong? All right, already off the bat there's some glaring red flags. One of the first things he talks about immediately is it's her fault because he didn't do the scheduling that he was supposed to do. OP had mentioned that you need to reschedule in October. You need to reschedule in November. And then we finally get to December now, and he's trying to schedule it in the middle of the time where everyone's traveling or we're trying to wrap up work for the new year. And he's he's taking what is an a mistake on his part, something he let go on his part, be a problem for everyone else. And now he's making it a problem, especially for his wife. When he's saying things like she's being rigid and not being flexible and selfish, that's just a reflective nature that he's trying to throw onto his wife, that his wife is the problem. When in all actuality, Jesus said, "Hey, I'm working these days," or "Hey, we're going to be out of town and I can't drive at night, so you need to make sure that you schedule it for next year. I know it's going to cost us more money, and I know that it's going to be a little bit of a headache later on, but it works better for our schedule." Even after she provided that, he continues to say, "No, you need to figure out how you're going to get me on this day," and now it's silent treatment. Yeah, this person, at least for me, is not wrong because you've asked them multiple times, you've given them different solutions, you've tried to offer ways to help, and they still haven't done anything to help. So on this part, I believe that this person is not the problem, and that their husband needs to get checked. But let's go check some comments and see what some comments had to say. One commenter said, "You're NTA. He's the one who couldn't get his together and schedule it for a time that wasn't totally inconvenient." Another commenter said in response to that, he won't have his together when he starts taking the colonoscopy prep. But that's a little bit different. Another comment says, your husband and his butthole are the buttholes, and you're NTA. He can still leverage the insurance prior to the end of the year by getting a friend to drive him home. That is assuming he has friends, which may be unlikely based on how he treats you. Still doesn't address the drive to New England for the holidays right before his procedure, but that just makes him more of the butthole for forcing you to do the entire drive. This is a good point I didn't think about, that OP would have to do 7 hours of driving by herself because he would be completely out of put having to deal with the colonoscopy because he'd be under the weather. Yeah, that's not cool. At this point, I'm like, maybe we shouldn't be maybe we should be talking about OP. Maybe we should be talking a lot more about this husband because that's not cool. Because now it seems almost like it's a almost deliberate thing. Maybe that you're trying to get out of something, or that you just don't care about what other people think, and that you're willing to put anybody through this. This is a question. Is he always disrespectful of your time and your opinion? He sounds unbearably rude and just flat out take no responsibility for his own procedure, and is just putting it all on you. Yeah, and this is a question that she may ask, and this is not like, I don't think it's unless this isn't like a consistent thing. Internally, I'm not like, oh, this is a problem you need to divorce him for, but this is something that you need to consider. That is this something that he does with everything? Is this how he treats his appointments for work? Is this how he treats family gatherings or anything personal going on in your life? If you have something going on, because she said she's a teacher, if she's got something going on at work that she wants him to be there for, is he being disrespectful of that as well? Because if that's the case, it's like, well, maybe you need to take a look at your husband, because he also is like family first and this, that, and the other. But we can see here that he just isn't cognizant of anyone's behavior or respectful of anybody's manner as well. This is not an update, but more of a clarification from OP. OP says, I should clarify that I don't mind taking off work to be there, but this next week is the worst possible week. Also, my husband is saying I don't care about him because I'm not prioritizing my family. Yeah, so this is one of those same things where he's trying to use manipulation tactics against you to try and find ways to make this your problem so that way you change to do what he wants to do. Um Honestly, in this regard, I would throw this back on him and say, "No, hey, you're not being respectful of our family because we've asked you to take care of this on your own time, and instead of taking care of it, you have been sitting here and you've been pushing off the dates, and then I ask you to reschedule, you reschedule to a day you know I can't do, or you haven't even bothered to check because you haven't checked our group calendar to see what's going on there." So yeah, I would bring that back up. It's like, no, if anyone's being not if anyone's not prioritizing family, it's you, because of how you're handling this situation, maybe how you're handling other situations as well. All right, on to our next story. This one's also from AITA. Am I wrong for sleeping naked in my own room? Throwaway account, because I don't want my roommate to see this. Since I was a teenager, I've always slept naked. I always get too hot at night, and it's genuinely way more comfortable for me to sleep that way. Whenever I leave my room, I'm always dressed, or at least have shorts or something on if I'm going to or from the shower. My roommate knows this, and up to this point has had no problem with it, and we always knock on each other's door anyway to be polite. The issue started when he brought over his girlfriend to stay a couple nights. We all got along pretty well and hung out a few times before, but this was the first time she had come over and spent the night. We had all gone out drinking and got home pretty late, so once we walked in, we just went straight to sleep. I, of course, went to bed with my usual routine of getting naked and hopping in bed. Well, sometime during the night, my roommate's girlfriend needed to use the bathroom, but she didn't know which room it was. My room and the bathroom are right next to each other, and she opened my door by mistake. I have a vague memory of her opening the door, but I was half asleep, and when she closed it, I went right back to sleep. The next morning, I woke up and my roommate and his girlfriend were upset with me because when she walked in, she saw everything. And she was mad I would sleep naked with a guest over in the first place. They both said I needed to start wearing clothes to sleep since my roommate's girlfriend is probably going to be sleeping over more often and makes her uncomfortable. My argument was that I'm in my own private space away from them, and that while I understand it was a mistake, it's still her fault that she walked in on me sleeping. It's been a few days and my roommate still won't let it go. I still sleep naked, and now once on purpose, he's walked in on me sleeping just to see if I was naked or not. I don't really care about him seeing me naked because we've seen each other naked before, but this is really getting out of hand. I don't think I should have to wear clothes to sleep just because it makes his girlfriend uncomfortable, even though I'm in my private room. TLDR, my roommate's girlfriend walked in on me sleeping naked in my own room, and now they both want me to start wearing clothes to sleep. All right, we got some edits and updates, but before we get there, let's just talk about what we have so far. This guy is just sleeping in his room. This is how he slept, and the roommate already knew this. He already says at the very beginning of the story, he's like, my roommate knows this is how I sleep, and since that hasn't been a problem, and we just knock on each other's door. Already off the bat, it's already been made clear that this shouldn't be a problem because we've already communicated with each other that we are okay with the fact that I sleep naked and that I do it in my room, and when I leave my room, I always have clothes on. I never walk around the house naked. The problem is now that since the boyfriend since the roommate has a new relationship that they're staying over, now it's become a problem. But instead of doing the responsible thing, which is like, hey man, my girlfriend's over. Could you make sure that that your sleep that we change what's going on? I really don't want my girlfriend to walk in on you naked, or blah 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 blah. You know, even though that's the responsible thing to do, OP still does not have the responsibility to say, I have to do that. He doesn't have to start sleeping with clothes just because somebody asked him to, mostly because this is his private room and he does not take it anywhere else. Another thing is that um they are their OP is trying to put a whole lot of blame on girlfriend, which I'm not a big fan of. Mostly because it's not the girlfriend's fault if she doesn't live here, right? This is not where she lives at. This is not somewhere she's necessarily familiar with. Because I believe they said it's the first night that she was over there where she'd spent the night. And so of course, in the middle of the night when you get up and go to the bathroom, if you don't know where you're going, of course you're not going to remember every detail. And so I think it's a little bit much to put a lot of pressure on the girlfriend for being wrong. But I don't think OP should have to sleep with clothes on in his own room. So that's the big thing, is that OP is not a problem for sleeping naked in his own room. Now there are some things that you can do. You can lock a door. You can put, there's been times where I've had like a bell or something attached to my door so I can hear when my door is getting ready to open, or people know what door it is, maybe a nameplate, a name sign, something like that. Um, Keeps people from making that mistake. But let's go ahead and read this edit first. Um, Edit. To everyone saying I should lock my door, add a lock. I would really like to. Unfortunately, the place we're staying at doesn't want us to change the door handles or anything, so I can't do that. However, I'm currently looking at ways to stop my door from opening that isn't like a barricade or that drills into the door or wall. Okay, well, never mind then. That ruins literally what I just mentioned. There's things you can do like that, or just like I said, having something like a bell or a sign or something like that that can really go a long way to help. Let's check out some comments before we go down in here. First comment, commenter says, "No nudity in your room." Got it. So they're not having sex when she comes over, right? Maybe you should just walk on in and check. Also, how did she manage to see that you were completely naked? How hard was she looking into a darkened room that clearly wasn't the room she wanted? Did she ever apologize for the invasion of privacy? NTA. Um, no, this is an incredible point here. Um, if we're gonna stand on this, where no, we cannot have you cannot be naked in your own room. You need to have clothes on. I'm like, that's great, but then that means it's the same for everybody, right? I can't be the only one that's being penalized just because I sleep naked. when you guys are doing other things in your room. And that's a really good point. And I also like the question at the end of that, how would she know? Not every room is the same. In my bedroom, it's incredibly dark. I don't have all my windows are covered. I don't have any TVs or extra lights on. It pretty much is just like dark in there. And so if his room is anywhere close to that, you would have to be standing at that door and looking in there for a while for you to see anything. And so I'm not surprised that this is a something that came up because we don't know the circumstances. We don't know how it's working, but for her to also know that he's fully naked, for her to see anything, she would have probably had to been standing there the whole time. Not unless it was one of those things where the window was open and you don't have a blanket on, and your whole manhood is just facing towards the room. Then on that, I'm not surprised on that. But I also don't think that um I also don't think that you're the wrong one here. I think that this is just the circumstances of the girlfriend is embarrassed and wants there to be changes because of a mistake that she made. Another commenter responding to this said, OP needs to flip the switch to I feel violated and unsafe in my own home, or your girlfriend violated my privacy and I'm thinking of getting the police involved, or if your girlfriend will be upset with how I live in my own house, she should stop coming over. you know those sorts of things are important. I agree with the commenter here. This is a different conversation if depending on how it affects you. you know um and if this is truly how you feel, maybe this is a way that you argue that as well. One more comment. This is a the comment says, on top of that, this is a perfect opportunity to lay down ground rules and establish that if she starts being here all the time, bills need to start being split 3 ways instead of two. As long as there is already drama, OP might as well tackle the next problem coming soon to its household. It's just a good point. I'm not really worried about the bills, more so it's like ground rules of like, hey, if this is how we're gonna do this, and that means you can't do this or you can't do that. If things are gonna change, it's good to go ahead and communicate that as well. But like I said earlier, we have an update, so let's read this update. Update. Wow. Really wasn't expecting this to blow up like this, but thank you for all of your feedback. A lot of you recommended a door stopper because they're super cheap and easy to use, and that's what I ended up going with. So thank you to all those who recommended them to me. Okay, so I had to talk with my roommate and brought up some of the points you made. For starters, I brought up how it's hypocritical to ask me to not sleep naked since they are most definitely naked when they're having in the same home as me, and he said that was different since they're not sleeping that way and usually hang something on the door handle. I also brought up the point that she now knows which door leads to the bathroom, so it shouldn't happen again whenever she spends the night. And he said that it still makes her uncomfortable. I guess she thinks I'm gonna come out of my room at night swinging my junk around. I suggested he only spends the night at her place if it makes her feel so uncomfortable, but he literally just said it's easier for them to sleep here instead. No idea how that could be if I make her so uncomfortable. So in the end, I basically said I'm still gonna sleep naked. I'm putting a doorstop in my room to make sure it doesn't happen again. And if they're still not satisfied, then they're just gonna have to deal with it. I think he's gonna give up on it, talk to his girlfriend, and we're gonna go back to normal. I really didn't I didn't really talk about him walking in again because I don't really care if I'm seen naked. I know that's kind of rare, but I'm super comfortable in my own skin, and it's really his fault if he doesn't want to see me naked and walks in on me sleeping. I'll continue to update as this go on. Extra side note, to the people saying his girlfriend wants me or something, I'm rocking an average 5.5 inches, so I'm not all that impressive. Not only that, I'm pretty sure I wasn't hard and I'm a grower, so it's even less impressive. Thank you all for thinking I was packing, though. All right, I like this OP. No, I mean, and he handled it exactly how he needed to. Hey, we're living in this house together. This is my personal space, and if you don't want to see it, don't go in my room. We're gonna continue to live how we were. I'm still gonna put clothes on the second I walk out of my room, but when I'm sleeping, don't come walk in and while I'm sleeping. But I think that was handled well, and I think that's about as good as that's gonna get. Um, I think if that's gonna continue to bother the girlfriend, and if they're gonna stay together, I think then the roommate will probably just move out, because at this point, the way that conversation was framed, it was very much like, no, hey, this is what I'm doing, so either you can get along with it or get over it. So That kind of works there. On to our next story. All right, this story is from a different subreddit. This story is from Am I Overreacting? Am I overreacting? I don't think my boyfriend knows who I am. I don't even know where to start this without sounding like I'm crazy and losing it. But I need to get this out somehow because I feel like I'm going insane. My boyfriend and I have been together for over a year. We live together. This is someone I should recognize without thinking. A few weeks ago, he forgot his phone password, or that's what he told me. His phone locked after a few wrong attempts and he laughed and handed it to me and asked if I could try. I typed it in without hesitating and it unlocked immediately. We joked about it and moved on. I did not think anything of it at the time. Then small things started happening. Nothing dramatic, just wrong. He always had me saved in his phone as Melissa. It was an inside joke. My name is not Melissa. He never used it seriously. Then one day he called me that. Just once, no joke. I corrected him and he said sorry. After that, he mostly stopped using my name entirely. I didn't notice it at first, but now I can't unsee it. He avoids it. He'll restart sentences or he'll get my attention physically instead of saying my name, like he's scared of saying the wrong thing. He also started asking questions that sound caring and thoughtful. Do you still like oat milk or did you switch back? You still hate mushrooms, right? You still listen to that podcast? Always, still, always checking. At first, I thought he was just being attentive, but then I noticed the pauses. If I answered differently than expected, he freezes for half a second. Then he adjusts, like he's correcting himself. He's on his phone constantly now, not scrolling, looking. Old messages, old photos. Sometimes he scrolls all the way back to the start of our relationship. When I ask him what he's doing, he said he was reminiscing, but he doesn't smile, he studies. Here's where I start to feel genuinely wrong. He started repeating conversations back to me, but not in a normal way. Like I'll tell him something about my day and he'll react normally, laugh, respond, ask questions. Then hours later, he'll bring it up again and said, "Wait, tell me that part again?" When I repeat it, he watches my mouth, not my eyes, my mouth, like he's checking timing. Sometimes he nods before I finish a sentence, like he already knows what I'm about to say. Last week, we were talking about plans later in the year, and he casually said, "Your birthday's before that, anyways, right?" I said yes and mentioned the date. A few minutes later, I saw him typing it into his notes app. Not my contact. Notes. He said he was organizing reminders. That explanation made sense. Everything he says makes sense individually. That's the problem. Another thing. This is the part I hadn't told anyone because it sounds crazy. He started copying me. Emphasis on the question mark there because I don't even know at this point. Not obviously, little things, the way that I sit, the way that I drink water, the way that I say certain phrases. Sometimes I'll say something without thinking, and later I'll hear him say the exact same sentence out loud alone, like he's practicing it. He also stopped laughing like he usually does. His laugh doesn't sound the same. When his phone isn't near him, he's different, quieter, less confident, like he's missing instructions. When he has it again, it's like he resets. Last night I asked him how we met. He told the story perfectly, same jokes, same timing, but it felt wrong. Like he wasn't remembering it, like he was reciting it. Later, I check our old messages. The story matched him almost word for word. That alone shouldn't bother me, but it does now, because I realized I didn't hesitate when I unlocked his phone. I knew the password the way you should know your own birthday. Ever since then, I can't shake the feeling that his phone is the only place where I exist properly. Like that's where I'm stored. Like without it, he's reconstructing me in real time. So yeah, part of me thinks he doesn't remember me. Like actually doesn't remember me, not in a forgot a detail way, but in a deeper way. Like the memories aren't there and he's trying to rebuild them from whatever he has access to. I kept wondering if this is something medical, a head injury he didn't tell me about, a blackout, something neurological, something he's aware of but trying to manage quietly so it doesn't scare me. That would make sense. That would explain a lot. But then I don't know what to do with the weird parts. The copying, the watching, the way he asks things carefully, like he's afraid of asking the wrong question. Please tell me if I'm overthinking this because I don't feel like I am anymore. Please, girls, if any of you have went through something like this with your spouse, Ooh, that's a lot. That is a whole lot. Um, my first thing was like, maybe you're not overreacting, but then part of me is like, okay, there's some things going on that I'm not sure that our OP has fully explained the circumstances of. Um, one thing I will say, and this is just general about most relationships. When people start spending a whole lot of time together, they will subconsciously pick up things from each other anyway. That's just how it is. It's a human nature thing. If you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend at home, watch this next time you go out with them. When you walk together, your feet will line up and you'll walk left and right at the same time if you're walking together. You know, um, think about it. Your boyfriend will also start sitting sort of the same ways, or they'll pick up phrases. That's part of just being there. So I think that part of this is that she has noticed something and then is just noticing everything now. And so that's part of it. But I do agree that there's something going on for him to have all these notes and all these memories and things lined up and set. Um the thing that concerns me is the storytelling. The fact that if she had asked him to tell a story or to reminisce on something, that he's saying it the exact same way. But this all stems back to when it started, and it was after he had made the mistake of calling her Melissa instead of like the OP's actual name. And so that makes me wonder, how did OP respond? How did OP really respond when the boyfriend messed up Melissa? Because here she says, it was just an inside joke. But when he called her that once, she said is, I corrected him and he said sorry. I'm I'm not so sure that happened that way. When you're dealing with the story like this, you only have one person's perspective. You only have one person's point of view for this. So I don't know what's happened on his end, and I'm not sure if all she did say was that, no, my name is blank, because then the question becomes, how did you respond? Because he may be overcorrecting and trying to make sure he doesn't mess anything up again, because what actually may have happened is your response to him messing up your name may have been more than you think it is. It may have seemed like more than it was, so in his mind he's trying not to fix it. I do also agree that there could be something medical going on, head trauma. Concussions can do a lot of damage if you're not careful, if you didn't take care of it correctly when you first got the concussion. um, but yeah, I feel like there's unanswered questions here, and that's what's concerning me. Let's check out some comments to see if anybody else has some ideas. One commenter says, not overreacting. I remember a couple years ago, maybe there was another post similar to this, not exactly, of course, about a woman whose husband was convinced she was pregnant. And every time she told him they weren't expecting, he would lose his mind, calling her a liar and asking why she didn't want to keep the baby. In future updates, she explained that he had been diagnosed with a brain tumor and it was causing a breakdown of his memory. I would approach your boyfriend about it. Mention that you've noticed him being spaced out, relying on tech, forgetting things he shouldn't know. Take him to a doctor, then a specialist. Get him scanned, make sure he's got appointments, and make him get answers. He's going to be scared. He may fight you, he may deny it. Be clear, honest, and show him that you're scared too, but that you'll get over it and you'll get through it together. I mean, yeah, I mean, if it is a medical problem, that might be it. But I do agree that the first thing is you got to talk to him. And if you talk to him the first time and there's not a specific reason why he says it, it's because this is why. Um, what's it called? Or this is what was going on. This is why I was responding. Unless you get one of those things, then you should go the medical route. Another comment says, get him to a doctor. My dad showed eerily similar behavior when I finally convinced him to see a doctor, and he had a brain tumor. Yeah, so this is another one talking about health problems. So that might be a legitimate concern. One last comment. Not overreacting. One more comment. Not overreacting. Take him to a doctor ASAP. It could be a brain tumor or another serious issue. So yeah, I mean, it looks like everyone's in agreement that like, oh, this you're there's something going on with your boyfriend medically, and that you need to get him looked at. This post was uploaded recently, so we don't have a specific update about it, but based off of all the comments, it looks like she is going to talk to him about getting some sort of checkup with the doctor to make sure there's nothing physically going on. So that was interesting. Ooh, I was not expecting all that. So hopefully he's okay, and if there is something wrong, hopefully they can get in there and figure it out very quickly. On to the next story. Next story comes from AITA. Am I wrong for asking my boyfriend's dad whether he planned on eating his pet cat? Oh boy. I, 19 female, met my boyfriend, 26 male, parents for the first time last weekend over lunch. He warned me his parents could be a bit weird, so I was prepared for that, but during the lunch they made repeated jabs at me for my age, which I did not appreciate. The topic of pets came up in the conversation, and I told him about my pet rabbits. When his dad had heard this, he had asked whether I had been raising them for food, and at this point, I was quite offended and said, "Well, are you raising that cat for food?" and pointed at their cat. To which he said something to the effect of, "Don't talk back," which I found quite infantilizing and a bit creepy. I excused myself from the lunch. No, that's it. That's all we get. Wow. Um, So I will say, reading through the story, I did immediately clock the age difference. That is a 7 year age difference. That's a pretty significant business. But that is, and again, that's your relationship. If that's what you're comfortable with, that's your business. Um, I don't know if his parents are necessarily weird, or for me, I'm thinking his parents are just unsupportive of the relationship they have going on. Um, I don't think that I think that in this case the boyfriend's response to his parents being a bit weird. I think that was more so the fact that the boyfriend probably told his parents that he's dating a 19-year-old, and his parents are like, I'm not with this. That's somebody 7 years younger than you. A 26-year-old man, that life is completely different than somebody at 19. Somebody at 19 has not lived long enough to, at least in the adult life, for you to have the same level of experience that a 26-year-old has. And so I'm pretty sure that the parents are just feeling that way. Um I like I said, I don't think this is like they're just being weird. I think like the dad saying that about raising them for food, about her rabbits, I think that was just like a, let me see if I can rage bait you. Let me see what I can say to make you uncomfortable, to make you not like us and to not like your boyfriend so you leave. I really think that's what that was. And I don't, you're not wrong for being in that comment, but I think there's more here than what meets the eye, and that you need to have a conversation with these people. Um, you know, and have a conversation with your boyfriend, like, hey, I don't know, because right now it's the rude comments back and forth, but later down the line it could be way worse about how you're treating each other because of your internalized feelings about it. So I mean, I would sit down and have a conversation with your boyfriend about this, of like, hey, what's really going on between your parents and us? Is do they not like us? What's going on? What's preventing this from happening? Let's check out some comments and see what other people said. This is the first comment, and this is so funny to me. The commenter says, "Why is a 26-year-old dating a teenager?" To which someone else responds with, "You know why." Um, I think like I said earlier, I think that's what this is. I think it has to do with that age gap, and I think the parents are just trying to find a way to get around this, to pick at this. Another redditor is the same extent also says a 26-year-old man has no business dating a teenager, which I fully agree. That's true. It's two different mindsets. Um, One commenter says, If the boyfriend isn't standing up for you, maybe you should find someone else. He's a full adult with a barely legal teen for a reason. Can't find someone his own age willing to accept him. His weird family should have been put in their place from the jump, but he's letting them belittle you and talk to you in a way that requires you to have to stand up for yourself. Excuse yourself from that relationship. And that's a good point too. I've been talking a whole lot about the parents, but the boyfriend also in that moment should have said, "All right, hey, y'all need to cut it out. This is unprofessional. This is supposed to be a moment for you guys to meet my current girlfriend, and you guys are not being respectful of that." Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I wish I thought about that too. You know, I I th- I'm not one to be like, oh, you need to break up or you need to divorce. But this is one of those situations where I'm like, no, I don't think this gets better. I think this gets worse, and I think you need to go ahead and go. One last comment ticks me off. Every time you say you have a pet rabbit, people always like to make the hilarious rabbit stew comment or something similar. And it's like, shall I shove your dog in a stew? Wait, not funny. Right back at you, buddy. Not the problem. Yeah. Again, this is just like I think this is more so not that his parents are weird, but more that they are trying to push you away, and they think that pushing you away is going to work if I get you from if I get you to not like us from a family perspective. There is no update, which sucks. These are all kind of recent stories, so I'm not surprised there aren't very many updates. But in this regard, I'm pretty sure she probably just got out. I wouldn't be surprised if she just broke up with her boyfriend at the time because, I mean, I don't see it. Everybody else in the comments is like, hey, this isn't a good idea. So hopefully she got out of that situation. On to our last story of the day. Real quick trigger warning. This does have some topics about racism, so if that bothers you, just keep that in mind. This post ended up on Best of Redditor updates. I, 29 female, recently discovered my boyfriend, 32 male, of 4 years, has been keeping a blog mocking my business. This is probably going to be a controversial post, as I know Reddit isn't very fond of any religions, especially not ones that aren't mainstream. This might be a weird way of putting it, so I apologize if that offended anyone. I really, truly don't want to. When my abuela died, I inherited the keys to her long-standing botanica. For anyone who doesn't know, this is a shop run by Latinos whose purpose is to resell religious, esoteric things. We sell the 7-day candles you see at memorial sites, herbs, oils, statues, books, services, etc. These are all things I grew up surrounded by and things that mean the world to me. I love them. To me, the scent of Florida water and Hoyt's cologne are home. I took business classes to run the shop properly, and it's a successful business. We profited off nicely, and we made some changes over the years, including services that you can't get at shops around us. We care deeply for all of our customers. I spend about 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. there every day, and it's like going to my other home. My boyfriend, Tomas, works from home. He does tech work and things like that. He's always been a huge supporter of my business because he knows how much it means to me. He knows it's a part of my cultural heritage of my life and of my ancestors and family. He knows that I do not 100% believe in the things we do. I believe in many of them, but I'm not hard boiled religious and I do not adhere to many religious rules. That's enough backstory. Well, the other day, I made us some breakfast. He finished very fast and went out for his morning jog. I asked him if I could use his computer to do a few things since it was right there and I'm a slow eater. He agreed and just turned it over to me. He left on his run and I got to work. I just wanted to do a few accounting type things and also do some research for an upcoming trip we have to Havana. But when I opened his browser, several tabs were already open. So I clicked to a different browser as to not disturb since I never know what's work and what's play for him. The other browser had one thing up, the blog. I noticed he didn't use the name of the shop, but there was a clear picture of it, and underneath it there was 50 entries or so far. I didn't go through and read them all because after I saw the first one, I got the idea. I got the idea clear as day. He was making fun of it. All of it. Everything. My heart shattered. He made fun of the customers, some of the products we have. One of the things we are known for is an extensive collection of candles for different saints, orishas, and figures. He mocked some of the orishas and their candles and novenas. What broke my heart is that he made fun of the one figure who I like the most, who I don't want to mention because I don't want to offend. I keep a small home altar to the figure and tend to it carefully with love. He makes fun of the altar and talks about how nonsensical it is in everything. The comments range from nothing to spam to dedicated followers who talk about his crazy girlfriend, how I'm absolutely nuts and he should run away. Who would believe in any of this? A lot of people and things like that. I was so stunned and absolutely hurt that I had to check how long ago he made it. I saved the address and read through all of it while I was at work and cried. I don't know how to address this with him. He's been keeping the blog for 2 years now. My heart is shattered because our relationship has been nothing but love and smooth sailing, excitement and joy. He'd never shared my spirituality with me, and it was never something that I requested of him. I even keep my altar out of view out of respect for his own preferences. What do I do? How do we come back from this? To me, it's not about spirituality. I have grown up hearing people laugh at it and call it kooky and made up, strange, and all that, but it's my grandmother's business. It's my ancestry and it's my heritage. To me, he's mocking those directly. What do I do? All right, so that's the end of the first post. There is some updates and some comments that we got left. Before we read the comments, I want to just put this out there. And this is gonna be my point, even after we get to the update, is that she needs to go. This guy does not have her best interest at heart. To be lying and putting all of these things out on the internet about what he doesn't like and how weird and obscene it is. You know, if that's how you feel, it is time for him to go. And if you found this information and he has that brought it to you, no, you don't need to be around him either. For him to be outwardly pushing this argument that what you do is odd and that your heritage is weird and there's some things that are wrong, that means that he has no intention of engulfing that culture with him. Which means that if you stay with him longer, he's not going to push that out with him as well. So I mean, realistically, there is no long-term future with this guy. This guy is eventually going to cut you off and it's going to explode into a problem. And so at the end of the day, it's like, no, you need to just go ahead and call it off and end it there. Let's read some comments to that first post. First commenter says, "My goodness, OP, that's so awful. It makes me want to cry just hearing that this happened to you. The only thing you can do is talk to him about it. And I think you need to say something along the lines of this. This is in quotes. To me, it's not just about spirituality. I have grown up hearing people laugh about it and call it kooky and made up and strange and all that. But it's my grandmother's business. It's my ancestry and my heritage. To me, he's mocking those directly. It's not funny, it's not a laughing matter, and it's insanely disrespectful. And the fact that he's been carrying on with it so long, I can't really wrap my head around why someone would mock something so personal and cherished that they're supposed to love. That's the most childish thing I've ever heard, and I have to go back to check his age at the top of the post. Confront him, OP. He needs to apologize, take the blog down, and beg for your forgiveness. OP said in response to that, how do I confront him? I've honestly never had to confront someone about something like this before. Um, Another commenter says, this is somebody different. So I found your blog. This is literally all you need to say to start with. Focus on how it makes you feel, and it feels like it doesn't respect you. And I would also consider keeping the funds you make from this business to yourself for the time being. If he can't respect it and actively trash it, he doesn't deserve to access any of the profits. OP responds to that saying, "Oh, yes, my business is mine. He shares none of it. We are not married and we have no joint finances other than me helping him out with student loans." The same commenter responds one more time. "I would recommend stop helping him out with the student loans for now as well. He's being incredibly disrespectful about you and your relationship, and it would be wise to create some consequences for his betrayal if you intend to continue." A different commenter says here, "Why does he deserve a full confrontation? Do you need the closure? Because unless there is something you need, I'd pack your things and tell him you saw the blog and leave. Or better yet, ask him to leave instead." LP says, "I'm not crazy about just upping and leaving without a word after 4 years. That's all." Ooh. We got one more comment that we're going to read for you, dude. Um, One more comment here. What is your boyfriend like in regards to the business? Is he supportive? Does he ever mock it openly or to your friends or at the business? Is it an anonymous blog or is his ownership of it public? You say he never shared your spirituality, but does that mean he follows his own religion? First off, I'm not trying to excuse his actions. That being said, if he's not religious at all, could his blog be his only reprieve, I guess, from your spirituality? Everyone else has immediately chastised him for being a terrible person. I'm not going to argue one way or the other without knowing more about him and your relationship. That being said, speaking as someone who does not subscribe to any religion or spirituality, you seem pretty entrenched in the religion. You work every day at the store, you have a home altar, in the home the two of you share dedicated to him. You probably talk about it a lot, and it's probably a big part of the majority of your friendships. I know if I were in your shoes and was with someone I loved and cared about immensely who believed extremely heavily in something I found ridiculous, I would need some time of escape from it. I would never want to prohibit you from doing something, and I would never ask you to change something you care so much for, and would never put you down or your friends or your family, but I would need some type of break from it. It seems like the blog is his break, and it kind of seems like it's the only one he ever gets since he's never free from it at home. You need to discuss it with him rationally and calmly as possible. And I know that's difficult when dealing with religion or spirituality, but it's absolutely necessary that no one loses their cool during this discussion. Anyways, with the limited info here, that's my 2 cents. OP responded to that saying, he doesn't mock it openly to anyone, of course. He would never stand for that. He does not follow his own religion, but he's not atheist. He just hasn't found what works for him yet. But to be clear, it is not a big part of my friendships, and I don't really talk about it other than when he asked if there's anything interesting that happens or anything like that. He will come into my shop many days to bring me lunch or hang out on his break, which is where he gets most of his stories from. But once I leave the site, I don't talk about it with him because I was taught that work and home don't mix like that. Yeah, at the end of the day, this just seems like, and that comment does bring up a good point of like, hey, maybe this is like just a um maybe this is just one of those things where he's just using it to let his feelings out. But there are ways to do that. There are burn books. There are burn books. You can have a conversation with your person. Hey, at home, can we just not talk about this? Can this be something we don't talk about at all? If that's the case, then that's fine. But I do agree with the vast majority of these responses, though, that maybe she just needs to go. Needs to have that conversation to say, hey, if this is something that we're gonna keep, this has got to change. Otherwise, we got to move on. But before we go anywhere else, let's read this update. Update. Had my heart set on not just getting up and leaving. There are some things that we needed to talk about, so when I got home 2 days after I made the post and had time to think about it, I confronted him. I started reading one of his posts off to him. He asked me how I found out. I was honest and told him. He started to get annoyed and asked me why I was snooping. I wasn't. And then when he started up with his defense before I can even get a word in, he told me that he had a hard time understanding how I could be a part of something when there's no logic behind it. How could I take money from anyone knowing that this stuff is fake and everything? I let him say what he needed to say. I asked him, is this how you really feel? And he said yes, and that he was happy to finally get it off his chest. He just insulted me, my beliefs, my family history, all of it, in the span of 20 minutes. I told him that if that's how he feels, he needs to leave. The place we live was mine originally. He just moved in after we were dating for a while because it was easier. I didn't want to have to stoop that low, but living with someone who thinks that little of what I do in my business, the business that supported our very comfortable lives all this time, isn't something I can compromise on. He asked me if I was breaking up with him because of this, that it was his right as an American with free speech to do what he's doing, and that I'm trying to censor him like all religious nuts do. Ooh. I couldn't believe what I was hearing and just asked him to leave. Over the next days, he connected Over the next few days, he collected his things, and when he got out his last box, he told me that he would not come back, but that I could bet he would still be posting on his blog about my shop. I think the last thing I said to him was have fun with the 15 blog readers. I'm really heartbroken over this and very sad it had to come to this. It had been a very long time before I tried dating again. TLDR confronted him about this and he blew up into his right about as an American with free speech and I was censoring him. I kicked him out and have no intention of dating anytime soon. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was obvious it was there. I didn't think he was gonna be that much of a problem. I thought it was just gonna be like, oh, I'm not a religious person, and but for him to make it a cultural problem, yeah, there was nothing that was gonna change to grow to make that better. Um, you know, he was already pushing with a lot of hate. I'm more so interested in, because there's no way that he managed to just hide all of that hatred behind the blog. There's definitely probably stuff going on behind the scenes that maybe she didn't notice and is probably going to notice afterwards. But overall, she did the right thing. She confronted him, and they came to that conclusion that no, this ain't gonna work, and we get out. And this goes for anybody in those situations. If it's gonna compromise on your views that much, it's okay to call it quits. And she was like, but it's been 4 years. Look, giving up 4 years is better than giving up the rest of your life, right? You know, sometimes you have to restart so that way you can get exactly what you need in life. And luckily for her, it's not a financial burden because the shop makes enough money to take care of the house and the finances and all that stuff. So that way she can continue to live the life that she was living. But now she doesn't have this person who hates who she is and the culture that she lives as well. Well, yeah, that was a fun little group of stories. Let me know down in the comments if you had any interesting thoughts about any of the stories today. I will also put the links to the story. That way, if by the time you're getting around to it, there have been some updates. Um, I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, if you want to hear more Reddit stories, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe so you can stick around and hear more stories. And I'll see you guys next week.